My name is Nadia Holloway. I'm 31 years old, and I work as a regional account director for a logistics firm out of Farmington Hills, Michigan. I manage freight contracts across 3 states. I negotiate rates that most people in my field spend years building toward, and I have never once asked my family to be proud of any of it. I say this not to establish anything. I say it because on the day of my sister Brianna's nursing school graduation, my mother turned to my Aunt Renee in the lobby of the Westfield Civic Auditorium in Dearborn Heights and said, in a voice she did not think to lower, that she wasn't sure my fiancé was a real person. "You know how Nadia is," she said. "She makes things sound bigger than they are." It was 11:47 a.m. on a Saturday in May. The lobby was loud. Graduates in blue gowns, families in good clothes trying to locate each other through the noise ball. Balloons tied to wristbands, bent already by the ceiling fans overhead. My family had gathered near the double doors at the back of the hall, the ones that pushed outward toward the parking lot. My father held a bouquet wrapped in gold foil, the cellophane already fogged from sitting in a warm car. Aunt Renee nodded the way she always nodded when my mother said something with the confidence of a thing already proved. My cousins Deja and Karen stood slightly behind them, half present. I had driven 90 minutes to be there. My seat had been row Q in the back, general admission, and by the time I'd learned that and my family had already filled the row they were holding, there was no room among them. I sat beside a stranger, stood when Brianna's name was called, and sent her a photograph before she had crossed the full width of the stage. I had not exaggerated anything. Brianna is 24. She is the kind of person who walks into a room and gets called by her name by people who have only met her once. Teachers remembered her. Coaches sent her letters. My mother introduced her at every family gathering as our Brianna, the one finishing nursing school. The way you announce something you built with your own hands. I was the other daughter. I had left Canton Township at 23. First to Columbus for a junior logistics role I applied for without telling anyone, then 4 years later to Farmington Hills when a promotion came through. My mother understood leaving in theory. In practice, every phone call we had for years started with some version of, "We just don't see you anymore, Nadia." I didn't explain what I was doing in the years I was gone. I didn't describe the accounts I was building or the contracts I was managing or the nights I stayed at my desk past 9 because the deadline was mine alone to carry. I assumed the life I was putting together would become visible on its own, in time. Marcus Reeves came into my life 8 months before Brianna's graduation. He was a civil engineer who ran his own infrastructure firm, the kind of work that moved him between cities on long contracts, months at a stretch. We met at a logistics conference in Columbus through a colleague we shared in the construction space, and we had dinner 3 nights later at a restaurant neither of us had chosen, both of us arriving 10 minutes early. I told my parents about him in January. I sent a photograph, the 2 of us at a small table in Farmington Hills, nothing posed, just 2 people who had finished their food and not found a reason to leave yet. My mother responded by text about 6 hours later. "He's handsome," she wrote. "Is it serious?" I told her we were engaged. She called 4 days later on a Sunday. "You've only known him a few months," she said. 7, I said. "You've been on your own out there a long time, Nadia. Sometimes when we want something to be real badly enough, She left the sentence unfinished. I said I'd bring him to meet the family when our schedules allowed. She said that would be nice. We ended the call. My father asked the following week what Marcus's family was like. He asked it carefully, like a man testing ice before committing his weight. He did not bring Marcus up again after that. Not in any call between January and May. I noticed the silence the way you notice a door that someone has closed without making a sound, not slammed, just eased shut and held. In February I sent a photograph of the ring. Simple white gold, nothing elaborate. My mother replied with a single heart emoji. My father did not respond to that message at all. By April I had stopped mentioning Marcus in family calls. Not because I had anything to hide. Because every time I raised him, the conversation made a small, careful turn away from him, the way a room goes quiet around something nobody wants to be the first to name. I had been sending money home for a little over a year before the graduation. Not every month and not on a schedule, whenever something came up and I had the margin to cover it. A utility shortfall in December when my father was between jobs. A car repair for my mother's sedan in February. A dentist appointment that had been postponed twice because of the out-of-pocket cost. Over 14 months, the total came to $6,340. I kept it on a simple spreadsheet, not because I expected repayment but because I track things. That was just how I functioned. After the December payment, my father called the same evening to say the transfer had cleared and that he would pay me back once things stabilized. I said there was no rush. He thanked me. We talked for about 20 minutes after that about something unrelated. A road project near their street, a neighbor's fence dispute, and by the end of the call the money had not come up again. He did not bring it up in any call that followed. I did not raise it either. The figure on my spreadsheet was not a debt I was tracking for repayment. It was a record. I kept records because records were the only things that didn't soften over time into something easier to live with. I had also spent several months on video calls with Brianna during her nursing entrance exam prep. She would share her screen and work through practice passages, and I would sit on the other side asking comprehension questions off the answer key, tracking her accuracy by category, flagging the sections where her scores kept slipping. She called most Sundays for about 4 months. Some of those calls ran close to 2 hours. I rearranged my Sunday schedule to be available. She passed her exam on the first attempt. At the family dinner after her acceptance letter arrived, my mother cried and held Brianna for a long time. Nobody mentioned the calls. That was not new. I understood the pattern by then. The contributions I made to that family functioned like infrastructure, relied upon while needed, invisible the rest of the time. 2 weeks before the graduation, I ordered a professional nursing gift set for Brianna from a medical supply company. The kit I chose was $847 and took 3 weeks to arrive because of a supplier backlog. I had it shipped directly to my parents' house in Canton Township so they could incorporate it into the party setup. I called my mother ahead of time to let her know it was coming and asked that my name be on the card. She said of course. At the graduation party that afternoon, held at my parents' house, I saw the gift on the living room table with a card leaning against it. The card had my mother's handwriting on the front. My cousin Deja told me later what it said inside. With love, Mom and Dad. I helped carry dishes from the kitchen to the folding tables my father had set up in the backyard. I refilled the lemonade pitcher twice. I sat with my grandmother and listened to her talk about her garden and a neighbor's fence situation for the better part of an hour. I did not say anything about the card. Before I left, I found Brianna in the hallway and gave her a separate envelope, a handwritten note and a check for $300. She hugged me and said thank you. She did not open it in front of me. After the ceremony ended and the lobby filled with noise, I made my way toward my family's cluster near the double doors. Brianna had been pulled away by classmates for photographs. My father was across the lobby, talking to a man I recognized from their church, the gold foil bouquet still looped over his forearm. I could see it catching the overhead light from where I stood. My mother was with Aunt Renee and the cousins, and I could hear the shape of the conversation from 6 feet away. She says he works in engineering, my mother was saying. Some kind of firm. Where did they meet? Aunt Renee asked. A conference. Columbus. My mother made a small sound, not quite a laugh. I stepped into the group. Hey, I said. My mother looked up. Nadia. There you are. I was just telling Renee about your fiancé. I heard some of it, I said. We were saying it sounds very exciting, my mother said. Her voice was warm. A real whirlwind. It wasn't that fast, I said. 7 months, she said, not to me, to Aunt Renee. That is pretty quick, Aunt Renee said. Where is he today? My mother asked. She asked it lightly, the way you ask a child where they've set something down. He had a contract deadline, I said. He was going to try to make it. Going to try, she said. She nodded once, not unkindly. Deja looked at her phone. Karen shifted her weight. Your father and I have always supported you, my mother said. Even when you moved away and stopped coming around as much. We've never made you feel unwelcome here. I know, I said. We've always been proud of what you were doing out there, even when we didn't fully understand it. She paused. We want the same things for you as we want for Brianna. Something real. Someone who shows up. He shows up, I said. We haven't seen it, she said. I set up a video call twice, I said. You didn't call back. Her expression didn't shift. You know how things get around here, Nadia. Your father's schedule, the house, there's always something going on. She smoothed the front of her jacket once. I don't want to make this into a thing. It's Brianna's day. I know it's Brianna's day, I said. Something settled along my collarbone. Not frustration, not the familiar weight I had been carrying since January, something older and quieter than both of those, something more like a current that had been running beneath everything for a long time that I had only now felt the full pull of. I said nothing. You've always had such a rich interior life, my mother said. She almost smiled when she said it, not cruelly, which was the part one couldn't move past. Just lightly, with the ease of someone stating something they'd decided long ago. We love you. We just worry you sometimes. She means well, Aunt Renee said. I know she does, I said. My mother reached out and touched my arm once, a brief, closing touch. Don't be ungrateful, Nadia. You have a good job. A life you built for yourself. You don't need to add a whole invented romance on top of it to be enough. My hands were in my jacket pockets. My right hand was closed around my phone. I met her eyes. I held them for a moment. I did not say anything. My father appeared at the edge of the group then, the empty foil sleeve still in his hand, the churchman having moved on. He looked between me and my mother and smiled. Not at anything specific, just a maintenance smile, a way of occupying a room without entering the thing happening inside it. There's my girls, he said. Hey, Dad, I said. He asked if I was hungry. He said there was plenty of food back at the house. He did not ask where Marcus was. I'll be there in a few minutes, I said. He nodded and turned to Aunt Renee, and the conversation reorganized itself around him, and I was outside of it again, the way I had been outside of things in that family for longer than I could cleanly identify the start of. I walked outside through the double doors and stood at the top of the concrete steps. The parking lot was nearly full, rows of cars sitting in the noon sun, windshields catching the light in flat white flares. I pulled my phone from my jacket pocket. I opened a text to Marcus. I typed one word, here. I sent it. I kept the phone in my hand. A family came down the steps past me. A grandmother holding a small child's hand, a man with a gift bag, a woman checking her phone before she'd reached the bottom step. I looked out at the rows of cars. I reached into my bag and took out the graduation program. The cover was glossy, slightly warped from the morning heat, the corners gone soft between my fingers. I found Brianna's name in the graduate list. I looked at the parking lot. A couple came down the steps beside me, the man with balloons, the woman already scrolling her phone. The doors opened and closed behind me. Someone laughed loudly inside the lobby. I put the program back in my bag. My phone was still in my hand. I did not check it. I watched it go. The doors opened and closed behind me again. I stood where I was. I heard them open a third time, and then I heard Deja's voice, which has always carried, from just inside the lobby. Oh, who is that? I turned around. Marcus was standing inside the entrance, still in his travel clothes, a dark jacket, no tie, the easy calm that he carried the way some people carry height. He was scanning the lobby, and when he found me through the glass of the outer doors, he walked straight toward them and pushed through. He stopped at the top of the steps. Hey, he said. Hey, I said. He looked at me for a moment. You okay? I'm fine, I said. Your text was pretty short, he said. I was being efficient, I said. Something that had been taut in my chest since 11:47 a.m. released all at once, and I stood still and let it. He put one hand on my back, steady, present, not a gesture, just contact, and we stood there a moment looking at the parking lot. How was the ceremony? He asked. She looked happy, I said. She really looked happy. Good, he said. He asked if I needed a minute or if I was ready to go back in. I said we should go in. He said okay. We came through the double doors together, and my mother saw us from across the lobby before I had taken 3 full steps. She looked at Marcus first, then at me, then back at him. He was taller than you sometimes forgot when you'd only been thinking about him. He had taken the time somewhere between Detroit Metro and Dearborn Heights to put himself together for the occasion, not overdressed, just considered. He was carrying a small gift bag I hadn't known about. "Mom," I said when we reached her. Her mouth opened slightly. Then it was not open. "This is Marcus," I said. "Marcus, this is my mother, Carol." He put out his hand. "It's good to meet you," he said. "I'm sorry I couldn't get here sooner." She shook his hand. "No, we're glad you made it." Aunt Renee had gone very still. My father came over from near the wall, the empty foil sleeve still in his hand. He was a full step slower in extending his hand, but he extended it. "Dennis," he said. "Marcus." He shook it. "Good to meet you, sir." "You work in engineering?" My father asked. "Infrastructure. I run a small firm. We're finishing a contract in the Detroit Metro right now. That's actually how I was able to drive over." My father nodded slowly. "Good work," he said, a categorization more than a compliment. Deja was watching from behind Aunt Renee. Karen had put her phone away. Brianna found us about 10 minutes later, gown still on, cap gone, hair down. She stopped when she saw Marcus. She looked at me with the expression people make when the information they've been carrying doesn't match what's standing in front of them. "This is Marcus," I said. "Hi," she said. "I'm Brianna." "Congratulations," he said. He held out the gift bag. "I didn't know what you needed, so I asked Nadia." Brianna looked inside. Her face shifted into something unguarded. "This is a really good stethoscope," she said. "That's what she told me," he said. Brianna laughed, a real one, from the chest, and hugged him. He looked at me over her shoulder with an even, measured smile. Later, as families drifted toward the parking lot and the lobby emptied out around us, my mother came to stand beside me while Marcus was talking with my father near the entrance. I looked at her. She looked at Marcus for a moment. "You know we were only worried because we love you," she said. "That's the only reason." I thought about the heart emoji in February. About the 2 video calls. About the card with 2 names on it. "I know you love me," I said. She waited. "What you said in there, I heard it," I said. "I always hear it." She looked at me quickly, sharply, then looked away. "He came," I said. "He drove from the airport because I sent him 1 word, and he drove from the airport." She started to say something. I walked back toward Marcus. 8 months later, I was sitting at the kitchen table in Westerville, Ohio, going through a stack of folders that needed signatures before the close of the month. Marcus and I had closed on the house in September, a 4-bedroom on a quiet street that had needed work and gotten it slowly through the fall. The porch rail that had been rotted when we moved in was rebuilt now, painted to match the trim. The first thing Marcus had done after we got the keys was look at that rail and say he'd fix it before winter. He fixed it in October, a Saturday morning, while I sat on the front steps with coffee and watched him work. There were other things the house still needed. We were getting to them in order, weekends mostly, sometimes a weekday evening after work. We were learning what the house needed the way you learn any ongoing thing, by showing up and paying attention. On the kitchen shelf beside the window that faced the backyard, I kept a framed piece of paper. It was the first wire transfer confirmation I had sent home. $400 on a Tuesday morning in November, my father's name in the recipient field, printed in a plain font on white paper and mounted in plain black wood. I had framed it a few months after the transfer. Not to display anything. Not because anyone was going to see it. Just because it was the first record I'd kept, and it was mine. My mother left a voicemail in October. "Nadia. It's Mom. Just calling to check in. We'd love to see you both sometime. Call me back when you get a chance." I listened to it twice. I set the phone down on the table. 3 weeks later, I called on a Sunday evening and we talked for about 20 minutes. Her garden, the neighbor's situation, whether Brianna might take a travel nursing contract in the spring. Marcus was not mentioned. I did not bring him up. Neither did she. Before I hung up, my mother said, "We're proud of you. You know that." "I know, Mom," I said. I said it the way you say a thing that is true enough to leave where it is. I went back to my folders after the call. The stack was almost done. I initialed the last page, set the pen down, and looked out the window at the backyard, the new porch rail, the quiet yard, the ordinary afternoon light coming through the glass. The framed receipt was on the shelf. The blackwood caught the light along one edge. Some things you carry not because they're heavy, but because putting them down would mean pretending they never happened. If that's something you've felt before, share it with someone who needs to hear it.